Do you have lapse of time that you just can't explain? Working with ETs either in your sleep or in your waking moments? Well, tonight's guest is Erica Goetsch, and she's going to be speaking on this. A lot more coming up next right here on Dale After Dark. It's that time to rest from the daily grind. Time to slip off your shoes, get comfortable, sit back and relax to topics that will relax and soothe your soul. Welcome to the new Dale After Dark. Here is your host, Dale Benedum. Welcome to the show, everybody. This is your host, Dale Benedum, and welcome to Dale After Dark. Tonight, we have with us Erica Goetsch. She's going to share with us her experience with her ET contacts. It goes back to her childhood. And also with me tonight is my wingman, Tobias from foxytales.org. Welcome to the show, Tobias.
Thank you.
And Tobias is kind of going to be a fly on the wall tonight. He's just here. He's interested. He wants to listen in, and he may participate in asking a few questions, and he's welcome to do so. So welcome to the show, Erica.
Thank you for having me, and hi, Tobias, too.
Hi,
Don't
Erica.
be a silent partner on the wall there. Just go ahead and chime in anytime. It makes all the more fun in the conversation. So
Absolutely.
Well, I look forward to it.
All right. Well, Erica, you are a ET contactee. You've had physical encounters. And the first question is, when was your first encounter? How far back does this go?
well, when I will age myself accordingly with this, but it was about 1974, and I was 5 years old. But of course, I didn't really understand everything at the time, but from 5 to 8, I had contact, and then eventually ended up not remembering anything until I was about 16, and then had my major incident, as I call it. But yeah, I was a youngster.
Was it a dream, or was it an actual waking moment? Was this something that happened while you were in bed sleeping and you woke up?
No, I was always awake, and I used to know ahead of time before they would be coming. In fact, in my mind, I'm sure as a child, it probably wasn't as often as I thought, but to me, it just seemed like every time I went to sleep, it was just, I felt like right a little bit before I would, be going to sleep, and the sun was still up, because back then, I went to bed obviously early, and I don't remember a lot about, my childhood, except that was, I will be honest, it was terrifying. I had feelings that, I could just, in the book I actually describe it more, but I try to really get real and down to the nitty gritty of what I felt. And there was so much like almost this anxiety or this anticipation with fear involved. There was something that would tell me that they're coming tonight. And so I just perceived it as being every night or almost every night. And of course, I can't really accurately say how often, but it most certainly seemed like it was often.
There's been a lot of talk, and my research and experience with this is that this has a tendency with these contactees to run in the family. Have your parents, either one of your parents, been involved with?
You
Have they ever
know,
discussed this with you?
and and that's the thing. I've heard that also, and not as far as I'm aware of. Unless there was some that maybe they don't remember or something like that, but nothing that, actually
It was
panned
never
out.
discussed, so therefore there was no knowledge.
Right. And my father is no longer here, and my mother, she doesn't recall anything, but
Hmm.
I mean, we've never, I grew up in a home that, well, my father and mother were separated,
Hmm.
and it was pretty much, it was a non-religious environment. There wasn't any fear based with, or guilt with religion, and no disrespect to anybody who's, in an organized religion, I mean, but
Hmm.
it just didn't have any discussions about really anything or paranormal. There was maybe a few ghost stories, something like that, but I mean, that was really, I mean, I was very much sheltered, and when I was 5, I clearly didn't have access to anything that would have led me to. I wasn't asleep. I was fully awake, and I used to I used to tell my mom, they're coming. That's all I would say is they're coming. I just knew they were coming because it was never one. It was always three, and sometimes an extra fourth one. It was always like that.
And your mom, uh, did she at any time think, well, I need to get her into a psychologist? Did any
Um,
of that happen?
no, it
Oh,
was
good.
always chalked up to, yeah, I'm glad. It was always chalked up to the 5 to 8 year old childhood mind, which, you know, it was, oh, don't worry about it. It's just, you're being like monsters in the closet, kind of, scared or something. I don't know. I don't really remember all of it, but I know that she didn't really
Well, it
take it.
sounds like your mom had a very open mind about it and was giving you the freedom and the latitude to be a kid.
Yeah, she did, and I'm glad for that because that
Well,
nowadays, well, I don't know what what the psychologist would do. Later in life, I actually went as an adult, and of course, I'm fine. But I mean,
all right. Well, let's get back to the story. So
uh,
we're in our very early adolescence, and we're getting these feelings that come over you as if to say we're coming.
yeah, and so it was pretty much okay. My sister and I shared a room, and she had the top bunk bed, and I had the bottom. And she's like a year or two older than me, and she's sort of basically a year and a half, depending on that.
Hmm.
But I distinctly remember that they would just appear from, I guess, if you want to call it, basically the wall. And it wouldn't be, it was always the same kind of scenario. They were 3 feet, and I'm guessing this because I guess when they would come up or when I could sense them, the bunk bed where the bunk beds the top bunk starts to, the the bottom of the top, portion
Right.
or whatever. So they were not ever taller than that. So I'm assuming that's about 3 feet. Um, but it would be, what I would see actually is swirling grayish, kind of in the moonlight, however, a grayish being that really, I'll be honest, it resembled a tornado. I
Hmm.
used to call them the tornadoes. And sometimes I would say tickling tornadoes because, of course, I'm trying to insinuate how they were always, I had a sensitive neck, and my sister used to tickle me, but I knew that what happened is they would come towards me, they would swirl towards me, and they would place themselves, well, around my bed, and I would hurry up and push the covers over my head. One would always be at the foot of my bed. One would be at, I suppose, my abdomen, stomach area. One would be by my head. And if there was an additional one, I had the feeling or the understanding, maybe I saw it, I don't remember though, that it would be sort of in the middle, standing back as if to almost watch what was going on or something. And I knew that they were going to examine me of sorts. And so I was absolutely terrified, which I'm sure probably should have been. That was a good, reaction. And I would just wake up the next day. Um, I mean, there was no sleeping moment. It would just wake up the next day, and a lot of times in that same time frame, I would have horrible body pains. I mean, literally crying over the pains in my body and various pains, arms, legs, whatever. And of course, I don't know if that's related to it, but I can only say that that's something that was exactly in that time frame that I never had afterwards. When I did move to a different house and I was a little bit older than 8, I never had that. So
When they would materialize, would they always stay in this tornado formation, or were they ever kind of like solidify and show a body?
I would never see anything but that swirling effect, because it really didn't. I mean, the maybe, I don't even think it would be 10 feet from, say, where they would appear to where I was. It wouldn't give me much time. They were quickly around me, and I was quickly hiding. And then I just knew that they were there to examine me, and I was trying to get away from them, for the most part. And
So did you?
yeah.
What would they do? They would put a cloak over you, and you would fall asleep.
No, I simply would just see them gathering around, and I would take the covers and put them over me.
Yeah.
And then literally the next second, I was awake and it was daytime.
Okay, so there's the lapse of time where, okay, yeah,
Yeah, it would be, going to bed. I would see them when the moonlight was, in the room to where, um, so it was clearly, fully dark, and then I would wake up and it'd be fully light.
wow, that
So I
quick.
guess
So
that
you had a loss of
never
time
even
now.
thought yeah, I didn't even think of the missing time off of that, because I have missing time later, but I guess I never thought of the missing time off of Thanks, Dale, for actually pointing that out. I didn't even realize that.
So you don't have any memory at all of any of this that's starting to come back to you as to where you may have been, where they may have taken you?
Well, I don't about that particular
Yeah.
portion of my life, but I know that later down the line, I discovered a lot more. And that
Hmm.
leads me to, I pretty much moved to a different house and started to become the preteen and everything. And
Right.
I was very active and doing things, and I didn't watch any, you know, shows that were extraterrestrial. I don't even know if there was anything back in the, 19 or the early 80s or anything. I mean, I'm sure there was. But
We
it,
had
I
Star Trek, Star Wars. That was it.
Well, my mom, we didn't really have cable, so it was kind of like small town,
Right.
Midwestern town and everything. So, but
If it wasn't on the rabbit ears, you didn't get it.
oh yeah, rabbit ears. Oh my God. Tobias, do you remember those?
Oh
Let's
yeah.
let's get
Oh, I sure do. Yeah, I
those
sure
were,
do.
weren't they?
The
Oh God.
rabbit ears, and for those of you out there that don't know what that term means, it's basically back when television was broadcast from a radio tower, and televisions were in analog mode, and you basically it was an antenna. You had two screws in the back of a television. You screwed them up, one of the UHF, one of the VHF, and you had to sit there and play with the antennas to get them to come in for each channel.
And if you don't remember it, anybody, you're lucky because
Yeah, really.
technology was not that good, at least
Yeah.
for.
Oh, I can remember
Yeah.
television before remote controls.
Uh,
I was the remote control.
yes, I
Get
know
up
it.
and change the channel.
Oh, I even remember a remote control with a long wire on it that plugged into the TV.
Oh, wow, man.
Yeah, you know what? That brings me to a good point. Is what I'll describe with my with my UFO, for
Hmm.
example. I mean, the time frame. It was that you still didn't have you know anything that would you know be like that. So I mean,
Cell phones,
yeah, there was no cell phones
no
or anything.
computers.
Yeah. So, I mean, to see something that I saw when I'll describe it is, is even weirder, and it stands out in my mind as even more bizarre, even to this day, which is, it's been what, 25 years later or so, probably 30 by now, I think it has. So,
What, so how old were you when you started having some memory recall, and what was that like?
well, actually, it was about 5 years ago.
5?
Yes. And that would date me. I am 45 now. I might as well just come clean. And so I was 40. Yeah.
Okay. What was that like?
It was it it was really interesting because I had a death in the family, and I started to instantly be drawn towards, well, not even religion, if you want to call it, because I understand I did want to find out where my loved one was going, kind of, the mortality, the life,
Mm.
life after death kind of thing. And so there was some of that there, but I started being completely compelled, I'll be honest, with ancient Semitic scripts. It was like I'm a housewife at the time, and I'm pretty much studying all at once. Um, well, okay, this isn't Semitic probably, but hieroglyphics, Egyptian hiero, and all three of the Aramaic scripts, of course, the Hebrew. I ended up learning Hebrew. I read the Bible. But while things were going on, though, I started to have, like, as I read the Bible, I realized, oh my gosh, this book is is one big extraterrestrial account. But somewhere before that, even though, because I really didn't even have the patience at the time for that, I was sort of more into the scripts. I started thinking about, you know, I don't know, like other worldly beings or something,
Right.
and feeling kind of like, why am I thinking about this? I didn't just see a movie or anything like that. It never dawned on me, as to why, and I was just, it was just a strange time in my life, because I was like, sometimes I would even cry at night, like, and even try to, pray to God and or whatever.
Who
Although,
am I? What am I? Why am
yes,
I
I was
here? What's my purpose?
right, and
Yeah.
especially I was saying, why am I a housewife trying to learn these languages?
Uh-huh.
What am I going to do with these?
You had a
It didn't
thirst for
make sense.
knowledge.
Yeah, and some people would say, well, why are you learning a dead language like Aramaic, which it's still alive in Malula, Syria today, but and that's the Western dialect, which supposedly Jesus spoke. But
Mhm.
they're trying to revitalize that and everything now, so hopefully they did that, more and more. But I just, it was just a strange thing for me. I really didn't. I was going through like a time of just feeling almost like I was crazy, like this doesn't make sense. But then remembering my sighting from when I was 16,
Mm.
I didn't even put together the beings when I was even younger that I described. I didn't put that together until later as I'm trying to figure everything out. Yeah, so
What was your dreams like during this time when you were searching and stuff?
you know what? I don't even remember like having any
Yeah.
dreams. I actually don't remember having many dreams at all, even throughout my life. I don't you I used to have as a child, though, reoccurring flying dreams.
Oh my gosh. All right.
And I was never actually in any craft. I was actually just magically like flying with my own body. But there was a lot, and it was never falling. It was flying and having um, control of the flight, so that I didn't feel like all of a sudden I was just going to drop and fall. No, it was always
Yeah.
like knowing where I was going to land, or deciding, that kind of thing. So,
Never
yeah.
had men in black suits chasing you?
No, I don't recall any of that.
Okay.
I did meet an MIB, clearly in an old style attire. Um, After it was in between. It was, well, basically I was an adult, but it was like after the major sighting. It was like several years later. It's funny because it's almost like every 7 or 8 years, I would have a major sort of something happen, significant with this whole experience. Because
Right.
I was five, well, when I was 5 to 8, and then from 8 to 16, I mean, I didn't have anything that I recall, and then 16 to, you know, I guess it was probably about maybe 20 something, then I had the MIB or whatever. I'm assuming that is what it was because it was an extremely strange thing. But I mean, and then I guess nothing happened until, I mean, later after that. I guess the 8 year thing doesn't really count. So I'm not really sure. People say, oh, you have to be a contactee or whatever, you have to have like a regular contact. Sometimes they think that, and as we know, you don't.
Right. Right. Well, that's something. There is something to the 7 year. I've heard this before, but it's not always the case. There is some pattern to a 7 year cycle.
I didn't know there was
I'm
other
wondering
7 year
if it
things.
has. Well, one of these things that I have found that seems to be quite common with these abductions is the implants that they put in them, and it seems to be, to me, I've put together that it seems like they've got to come and tweak them every 7 years.
Oh, that's very interesting. I never even would have thought that. And for
So
me, I don't even know I would have an implant except for a situation that sounds kind of classic. And of course, I don't know. I mean, I used to, well, you know what? You're right. I actually did have a dream that was not only flying, and it wasn't in the same dream, but then there was another reoccurring one that used to happen. And it was, gosh, you're making me really think about this.
yeah,
I
see,
never,
this is
good. Yes, good.
there you go.
Oh my gosh, you're making me depressed. No, I seriously would have dreams that I was picking something out of my skin in various spots, though, of
Like
my skin.
where?
Sometimes the face, a lot of the face, actually,
Yeah.
and maybe the arm, but I know the face was a lot, and boy, that just really coincides with my incident of what happened when I saw a shadow being, and I woke up for the most part the next day. Again, another pass out thing or whatever you want to call it, of just boom, and I wake up and scared to death, though, still waking up scared to death, and all of a sudden turn to look for churches because, of course, this was a few years after my major incident,
Hmm.
and I open I lift my head and grab the phone book, open it up, and it goes right to the church section in the yellow pages, which,
Mm.
yeah, saying a synchronicity.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden I feel something, and I realize there's something dripping, running, whatever, my mouth. There was something. I run to the mirror. I have blood dripping out of both nostrils, and it was coming into my mouth. And throughout that whole day, I had like 5 nosebleeds that were very serious. And they talked about having to,
Oh, I had
cauterize.
nosebleeds as a kid too. Jeez.
So it's funny. You
Yeah.
make me think of the dream, plus that it was on my face. If there was, if there is an implant on my, would it be in my nose? I just don't know. But that's really interesting.
Well, I just want to express to everyone that's listening to this. Number one, I am not a handler. I am not attempting to trigger any memories, but this is just by coincidence. So
Yeah.
maybe there's something here that I'm relating to that's kind of, yeah, I don't know. We're kind of searching each other out and finding each other, and this may be just another aspect of that. So because there's things that you're saying that kind of peeking some memories here myself. But
Yeah. I
getting
can
back
tell
getting
by
back
your
to the first.
emotions. I can tell, Dale. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's
It's got to be unlocked right now. Whatever it's supposed to be, I mean,
oh, I've
it's the
had
way
the
it
men
is.
in black chasing me in my dreams, and the only way I could get rid of them was to spin in place. And how many kids have we seen in their early
Mm.
adolescent years sit there and spin
Oh,
in
right, right.
circles?
Gosh, you know
Yeah.
what? You are making me trigger stuff. This is an incredible look. We are both right now.
Yeah.
I'm not. I try. I don't even think it's like first I go to. I just don't even have the dreams. I really didn't even think about my dreams. I never do. And then I did have dreams that another reoccurring.
Yeah.
I had another reoccurring dream that I was driving in a car, me and my sister, and we were racing away from, for the lack of a better term, a monster um, that somehow it was right, almost like we could go as fast as 100 miles an hour practically in the car, but somehow the being, which who looked familiar in a way, was always one almost right up on us, which,
Can
honestly,
you
I'm not going to say
describe what
that.
it looks like?
Oh boy. A little bit like you guys, a little bit like my mother, but
Oh
a
yeah.
little bit like a demon of sorts. I don't even talk about demons, but sort of bit larger-eyed human
How
with
tall?
little of qualities of, maybe feminine or maybe a familiarity as possible as my mother. You know how you get those you can see and you can feel at the same time, and so it
Yeah.
kind of gets twisted.
You ever have prolonged ringing of the ears?
Oh yeah, sometimes. Oh yes. And I never did as a child, but as an adult, actually in the last, honestly, 5 years, I've had, and I've checked it out. It's not that tinnitus, I think they call it. It's
Yeah.
not that 'cause I don't have it now. It just when I get it, I always say there's something sort of going on. I don't know why, but
So
there's
it comes and goes. It's not constant.
right. It's not
Okay.
constant, and I haven't had it in.
So that started in what, 2009, 10?
Um, yeah, that's. I mean, pretty
Okay.
safe to say. Yeah.
So bias, this is getting awful freaky because mine started in 2009
Oh my.
and it hasn't
Hmm.
stopped. The ringing in my ears, it's constant and it's a real high pitch, almost at the octave where it's inaudible, but it's
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I
Yeah.
can see a correlation between these things for sure. There's no doubt about that to me.
So, how
Yeah.
many nosebleeds? Was this something that happened quite often right after you felt like there was a time displacement, or was this just maybe a couple of
This was
times?
no, this was just the one time when I would this what happened was I to bring this on or as the result, I was trying to go to sleep and I suddenly saw this shadow
Yeah.
it almost looked like if a person put a sheet over them, but it was more fitted to their body, and then it was black sheet, and you could see in the moonlight kind of thing. So you saw it, but it was just a shadow. I mean, it's not like I actually know it wasn't. I know it wasn't a person with a sheet over it, but it just had that kind of outline, I guess, and slowly would come towards the foot of the bed on the opposite side of where I was at, and pretty much just came towards me slowly, so slowly. I've got to
Yeah.
just say this in such a way. It was gruelingly slow. It was, the anticipation was, my God, one of the most frightening things I've ever been. I mean, it was, I can't even describe it. I would have, like anticipation is the worst. And I would have rather had it come and just say, for example, kill me right there than have to have that feeling of seeing it. Oh my God, it was horrible. And I'm a full-fledged adult at this time,
Mm-hmm.
and it came around and started to come up to my knees, and my God, I wake up the next day, and that's when the nosebleed. And I mean, I was so scared. People. I mean, it's like, did I pass out from the fear? I don't know. I don't even know, and I never hardly talk about shadow beings or anything that might describe it or whatever. Honestly, I couldn't tell you, but I know when I woke up, I had the five or whatever nosebleeds throughout the day. Instant fear when I woke up. I mean, I didn't even know that my nose was bleeding, and I was so scared.
And you didn't have any memory recall of this incident.
No, I
What?
mean, it was just boom.
So
You
that
mean like of what like happened when it got by me, and then over the course of whatever I must have been sleeping, or the night to the day.
Right. So
Yeah.
let's get back to when you start having when some of this memory is starting to return, and what time frame was this?
Well, I mean, I did have I knew about this. I knew about all my life. I knew about when I was a child and the tornadoes would come. I always knew that as an adult. I would tell my mom, and like once in a while, like not tell her, but we may discuss it, and I'd say, and she'd say, "Oh yeah, that was so silly. You thought the tornado." And I said, "What are you talking about? I know that this was real." I mean, I would argue with her. I would, state I was standing my ground, because I said, "Look, I'm telling you, Mom, and I'm telling everybody that it was real. It wasn't like a fantasy thing, a childhood fantasy. It was absolutely a real." I didn't understand like an extraterrestrial connection at the time. I just knew it was real. It wasn't me making something up as a kid, and I would get very upset, and they would act like, "Gosh," my sister and my mom, "Gosh," well, what can I say? I mean, I know reality and I know fantasy. Even when you're a kid, you can know that. I mean, the fear I had, it made it
This
so
this
real.
wasn't a pleasant experience for you at all.
No, it was
Yeah.
horrifying. And it's funny because, I mean, I say my overall experience is positive now because I came to an understanding of it. But of course, going through it when you don't know, and you're, you know, just
So
in the.
what time frame did this shift when you started having an understanding? Was it the time where you started having this thirst for knowledge for hieroglyphics and the Egyptian
No, I was actually
life?
still scared for that. I was still scared at that time, a little bit, like more confused, and also kind of, not, I don't want to say scared, but well, actually it was scary because I would like sort of venture like secretly, like as though, why couldn't I do it openly, but I would hurry up and look, just type in UFO in Google, and I just click, being kind of embarrassed, like click, and then I would just look through some, and it would it was an uneasy feeling, but a lot of them, most of them were, I mean, I just felt uneasy, kind of sick to my stomach, but nothing like once I saw this one. It had the multicolored lights, and oh my God, when I saw that, I almost fell out of my chair.
The multicolored light UFO crafts?
Yes, and that's like the one that I saw, and I almost fell out of my chair backwards because, I mean, I felt like I was going to throw up. It was just this flood of emotions, like, oh my God, it was just, oh,
But you
too much.
still wasn't putting the connection. You had something there that was creating these emotions, but you still didn't know what.
Yeah, I mean, I remembered the sighting. I started to remember it.
Hmm.
But then at the same time, I was trying to look for answers on afterlife and thinking, I felt guilty, like, I shouldn't even be thinking about, this and then the Bible was telling, in my version, it was telling me, I was looking up what angel was, and the messenger, and trying to figure out all this to try to see what the meanings were, but everything, and then I finally just went, hey, after I saw that, multicolored craft thing, I was like, my God, that's the one that I saw, because I could see it clearly in my mind, but I just didn't
Hmm.
want to deal with it. And I thought, I've got to deal with this. So I just decided to, where are you going to go? Who are you going to talk to? So I mean, like my sister actually, and my father actually saw it. It was,
Mm.
they saw it from a distance, but, so I got confirmation, and then I felt a little bit more, like, okay, well, I got to tell somebody. Who do I tell? So I looked it up, and it was pretty much report UFO. And of course, MUFON came up, and that's what I did. I reported it, but I didn't really say everything. I tried to candy coat it because I felt like, oh, I don't want people to think I'm crazy. And
Too late, right?
I was thinking I was crazy at the time. I mean, I just was like, I don't know what's happening all at once.
You're trying to process this and come
But
out with a sane rationality, and it's just yeah, you like me. It's like
yeah, I'm like,
it's not
really?
enough info, and I'm
Just
still trying to struggle with living life that's just inherently
Yeah.
just every day, every breathing moment is existing in this reality of based on fear. And here
Yes.
you experienced it on a much deeper level, much more detailed uh, format, and now you're starting to get emotions that you can't even identify as to why you're having these emotional memory. Um, what do you want to call them? Emotional. I don't
The
want to say outburst, a
flashbacks, or
flashback kind of.
it was
Yeah.
truly like post-traumatic stress. It really was. I mean, it
Hmm.
really was, because it's funny that, when you go through this, well, for me, I didn't process the fact that, okay, I've seen a UFO on a picture and I want to throw up as being, I don't know what, I mean, I knew that it was what I had seen. I knew that consciously, but
Yeah.
why didn't I process it, like, I don't know, further? It seemed like there was a stopping point that just made me stop almost thinking about it. Because I used to sit there and I used to, after a while, I used to decide, well, I gotta really, I mean, okay, I gotta admit it. I guess it did start getting more intense when I was forced to deal with it when the MUFON investigator, um, contacted me and had me fill out some forms and stuff so that I could, and they asked me a little bit about the craft itself. Now, obviously, no occupants were, mentioned, and I didn't even think of occupants or anything at the time. All I remembered was the sighting, and then I was trying to, gauge the distance. It was probably, what, 500 feet away at the most
Mm-hmm.
from the car when it stalled. And you know what I mean, there was so many, I was trying to, identify what it looked like, so my attention was focused on that. And it was kind of like I would sit and think, okay, I have got to sit and use my memory. I thought it's inside of me. I know it. I must know it. So why can't I remember? There's a block. Why would it, there's a block on it. Why would there be a block? And I never went to forums or anything to read on any abduction things or anything. I didn't even really think that, that was even the case. I just thought, okay, well, how come I can't remember? I couldn't remember how I got home. The sighting happened about 7 p.m., late summer night, and boom, it was like literally, what is it? When the sun's going down, but still up enough, you can see the colors and stuff. And then all I remember is a flashback of sorts of, I'm standing outside the car after it stalled. My friends and I'm standing outside, and the sun is up the next day. And
Whoa.
but my memory is also of conscious memory, and I want people to understand, because I try to divide in my book, um, Beyond the Fear, the Alien Equation, that I finally wrote because I thought I've got to get this documented down, and it was mainly it's just for me, mainly, to get it down. I
Mm-hmm.
described that. I try to say, okay, there's conscious memory, flashbacks of that, and then there is regression, because I wanted to know who was with me, because I had lost my friends right after that. Like, everybody separated, and I moved, and that's all I wanted out of the regression. I didn't even think about anything else. I knew I
Right.
had a sighting, and I thought, well, then who was with me, and why don't I didn't remember coming home. It's weird. I don't remember the drive home, and I thought, well, that can't be. Another block
How
on.
did you get from here to there?
Yeah, I'm like, I gotta know. Okay, so step one is who was with me. So I just figured, all right, I'll go and I'll find out who's with me. And then boom, I find out I'm up in the ship. I have message from them, equation, all sorts of things. And it blew my mind, because, of course, I didn't expect that. I wasn't looking for that. And I still had no connections with, um, like, the community that I do now, and I know a lot more. I've heard more stories. I've never even read yet. A very good friend of mine, sent me a book called, well, you know it, Communion by Whitley Strieber. I've never read that book yet, but I know that that's like the classic everybody talks about. For some reason, I just haven't, researched it. So see, there's a lot I didn't know, and that I'm
Yeah.
learning as I go. So it wasn't like it was implanted in my mind, if you want to call it implanted, is kind of a Freudian slip. But you know what I mean? It wasn't like I was having a lot of influence on that at all at the time.
That word has a lot of meaning in my life right now.
Mhm.
Tobias, what do you think?
I'm with you.
I like to bring your partner in crime in every so once in a while.
Partner in team member. We don't use the word crime. That's a cute term. We're not criminals. We're, you know what? We're liberators.
Yes, yes. Well, you kind of liberated me from a little bit of not even thinking about that whole dream thing. I never once thought about it. It's
No,
interesting. Huh.
I look
Can't
back
believe
on
I
these
missed that.
experiences, and one thing that seems to be constant with everyone, we have been raped of our memories on purpose, and I can't think of a worse crime than that. When you rob someone of memories and it's been done, and you don't know the questions that, the answers to questions. I struggle with it. You're
Yeah.
still struggling with it. Tobias is kind of a unique person that is, well, he's been a mentor of mine, one of two friends, and holy crow, man, it's a tough nut to crack with these memories, and yeah,
Well,
so I feel you. I'm experiencing some of this too.
yeah, and it's like, I would sit there and I'm thinking, having just all this emotions and flashes and then real memories and then getting confirmation from my father and my sister and you know the neighborhood we lived on at the time when my dad and my sister were outside at a certain time of night, all the neighbors would gather. It was a circular
Hmm.
neighborhood. The city mayor lived next door, was one of my dad's best friends, and he saw
Well,
it.
you lived on a court too.
Y- yeah.
Okay.
And why do you?
I grew up, well, the two places in my childhood. The
Yeah,
second one
me too. I had
was
two
I grew up
two
on a
places.
court.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's synchronicity there.
Mm.
I had two places. One was at my dad's, one was at my mom's. But at the time of this initial everything, I was living at my dad's, and yeah, there was a circular drive, and all the people, everybody saw it. My sister describes the colored lights. She describes green in there. I didn't see the green, but my father. I mean, it was saw off in the distance, but little did they know that literally that I was right beneath it. I mean, it was that close, and so.
Mm.
I mean, it's just so there's confirmation that says, "Hey, you're not crazy. I mean, you're not crazy. This happened." People, it was like a mass sighting. My husband, he before I knew him, he was several towns away. Him and his entire family saw it. They reported it to many places who said, "Yes, we're watching it. We're keeping an eye on whatever that is." The
Wow.
airports and everything. I mean, it was like, what? I mean, this was a mess, but I don't recall anything. I didn't look. I don't recall anything in the newspaper. I tried to find info. It's been that long, though, that, honestly, 30 years or something. I just don't know if we would have had anything written up about it. I seriously.
Let's let's skip ahead a little bit here with the with your experience. Now, you say you did have some memory recall of being on the ship.
Yeah,
Talk about that.
basically, well, the regression actually brought me into more of a. I had gone to actually the psychologist for anxiety because right after my sighting as a teenager, I became socially, what is it, it's not, I don't even know if it's antisocial. I was fearful and had anxiety. I really I can now say I exhibited traumatic stress, I mean, outwardly, and really didn't have a good school attendance and things like that. So
Would
I
you describe it more of like introverted?
mm,
Out.
yeah, it was just wanting to
You
hide.
are you are your world was pretty much your home. You really wasn't a socialite, or
Well,
were you?
it's I always was a socialite, but then it would be moments, and then later, because at the time my sighting was, I did not do any kind of partying. I didn't drink. I didn't have any kind of experimentation with drugs or alcohol. But after that, I sort of rounded up into an understanding, if you want to call it that. Oh my gosh, I can't function without in a social scene unless perhaps I'm a little more relaxed. And then I tried to experiment to find that relaxation, which sometimes was, alcohol or something.
Mm-hmm.
But so that kind of allowed me to get out a little bit.
Yeah.
If you know you're going to be a little bit tipsy or something, that does help. I mean, to get you out. But no,
Right.
I had a lot of issues with that, and so I decided to, you know, go to talk about my anxiety, and periodically, see the same person that I always saw, and it kind of helped, but they pretty much just acted like it was post-traumatic stress and everything else. So didn't think much of it. And then finally, so I went to somebody who I had been working with, that we kind of had a hypnosis thing before with anxiety. So it was kind of, people say, well, how can you just go to get regressed or have hypnosis, whatever you want to call it, and suddenly trust the person and be able to have these unlock? Well, I went twice for this specific event, for the sighting, and I was already trusting this person. This person is a doctor, a clinical, real psychologist with 30 years experience, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the top at around,
Mm-hmm.
and did not. I have to always say this because he did not lead me into any kind of thoughts. He's not trained in this, so he sort of let me run with it, a lot of it.
He's no Dolores Cannon.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, he did not. He didn't say, "Well, what did the blah 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 look like?" He
Right.
didn't
Right.
say any of that. He was sort of just kind of letting me go, but barely saying anything. And which I'm still, I'm thankful for, because I mean, I didn't have any. I just didn't even know what I was getting into. But to make a long story short, I was pretty much. I saw the craft. I will summarize it, and then we can always go back in. My friends and I were on a joyride. The static went on the radio, and then the car just died. We were in the middle of nowhere, back roads, no cell phone, and
Mm-hmm.
cornfields and soybean fields everywhere. Above the tree line, a craft, and a lot of scary thoughts, like just there was so much that goes with that, but no memory of getting back, but just remembering consciously of watching it leave, for the most part, from the ground up leave, and I'm outside the car. So that was like, and then had flashes of other things, but the regression also told me about that, but it also went into detail where I ended up getting out of the car and being pulled up into the ship, I guess you could call it. And I mean, I am leaving details out, but for the most part, I'm up in the ship, and little beings are all around me. Now, they didn't have a swirling tornado-ish look or anything. They don't look like, or the ones that I don't, I guess you can call them grays. I don't know. They were approximately, the 3 feet tall kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
But they moved really fast. Okay, I didn't know. I mean, my God, I didn't know how fast. I mean, this is like, they move so fast. There was lots of them. It was overwhelming, and they don't look like what people describe. They looked a little different. I know
Mm-hmm.
the eyes weren't huge or anything. They were just I don't know, they just had a different look. And then next thing you know, they disappear, and um, all of a sudden, I know this sounds so like, it's so cut off, because normally when I'm describing this, if I go into such detail, I get into where, oh my God, my emotions are so
That's
caught.
fine. I'm not here to grill you.
But
Just
yeah, it's
uh,
pretty much
yeah.
I there's blue beings that came in, and they have a similarity to reptilians, but without scales. So again, they look different. But they
Like
have,
dolphin-like skin. Or
Yeah, kind of. I mean, sort of like the dolphin skin, and under the surface you could actually see a texture. So it's
so it
all
was
like,
semi-transparent.
well, yeah, I never thought of it as being, yeah, you could see some transparency, some structure to it, like, okay, if the dolphins had some kind of a rugged implants that were bumpy or just, and you could still see their skin was sort of texture underneath that, that double. I
Well,
don't.
were you seeing like what like veins, like someone that has very lean body mass, and you could see veins,
I do
muscle
remember
structure?
seeing, sort of not muscle, but like almost a bluish. And I know that a lot of people say, well, that might have something to do with, the oxygen intake or this. I don't know. All I know is that my memory always leads me to
Or
there's
was
a
the
weird.
skin void of any pigment?
It was almost this like I want to say cobalt blue. It was just a very unique, light and bright sort of cobalt blue.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And they came in and they were doing things to me, examining me. I got an understanding
Mhm.
of, I mean, I was just, there was a lot of arguments when I was up there. I mean, like, I don't know if I thought them or not, or said them, vocalized them, but I was very combative, like trying to, I mean, even from the moment I got up there, I wanted to, leave, but I knew for a fact that those little beings wanted me to lay down on the, bed, and I realized after sort of fighting it that how am I going to leave? I don't have a choice. This isn't a choice.
Mhm.
So I just complied, and when they just took off, it was like scary. It was very scary because all of a sudden I knew something bigger was coming. And oh yeah, these
Okay.
other beings, the blue beings, were. I'm just going to estimate from me laying down, in a sense, that they were about 7 feet. And there
Okay.
was a male and a female. The male came in first, came up to me. The female went off in the corner where this like monitor thing was.
Mhm.
And the little beings were gone. Like they just like took off so fast. And I'm like, I don't even know how. And I, for the most part, was being examined or something was happening, and all sorts of things. And I was like electrocuted or something. There was something so strange that in the chair, while I was being regressed, I was able to sort of realize that in real time, and while the doctor was looking at me, I had my hands from my wrists all the way to my fingertips were convulsing on both hands in an electrocution. I could never duplicate it even now if I wanted to. I tried. It was like literally the nerves were spazzing, and it felt like electrocution of sorts. I don't know what
What
was
was
happening.
it painful, or was there no pain involved?
I didn't feel any pain except for just the sensation of the movement,
Oh
which was
God.
actually quite
Wow.
irritating and, in a way, almost painful itself, just because it's so spazzy. It has it's uncomfortably,
There you go. Okay, I gotta stop. I've had this
Okay, yeah.
experience. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Another
Yeah,
treat.
you feel like electrocution, but it's not. You don't get the pain, but you get the sensation that comes from. I mean, let's face it. Who hasn't, as a kid, stuck their finger in a light socket and felt that pain? But
Yeah.
it's that surge of electricity that's traveling through your body that contracts the muscles, and it's like it just energetically wipes you out. But
Yes.
what you're feeling and what you're describing is something that I have that's now tweaking my memory, that there's been times that I have woken up and felt like I've been electrocuted, and I have felt that, but there wasn't the pain involved with the voltage, but it was like, yeah, this is so totally foreign, and it's not comfortable.
Yes, and because your
Yeah.
body is moving that quick, or I don't even know,
Oh my.
it is absolutely almost in a sense a different kind of pain, isn't it? Because it's not, your body's not meant to move that fast, okay? My fingers were not meant to spaz out that fast. And to have them do that in itself is, it just doesn't, it has a certain almost
It's like
adrenaline
doing a
kick.
90-minute workout in about a minute.
Right. I mean, there's exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, that is amazing. Yeah, that you. I mean, this is synchronicity right here at its
Yeah.
finest. So in the course of that, I black out or something. They touch my. I'm really upset. They touch my forehead is what they do, and then I just, I don't know, faint,
You
black
chat
out.
out. It's nighttime. That's their anesthesia.
Yeah, it was just an instant, and but I received when I woke up, and I don't know what the time was, but it just seemed like a second later. But I
Well,
received an
have you ever
understand.
had surgery? Have you ever gone under the knife?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, it's basically the same thing. It's the same thing. I've had that happen where they ask you to count back from whatever, and you get about 8 seconds into it, and it's lights out, and it's like a split second later, it's all done. And it's like, wait a minute, you mean you've already done it?
Yeah, that's yeah, it's a good way to put that. In fact, that seems to be every time I blacked out in any of the other incidences, it was always that type of yeah, you just don't know nothing and then boom, you're just awake and it's like,
But you
yeah,
know something happened.
yes, exactly.
But
You
there's no
know.
recollection of time. Time just, it seems like everything stopped for a split second and you're awake again. It's like, wait a minute,
Yeah, and
what just happened?
when I woke up,
Yeah.
I I knew I basically there was an understanding. Now, whether they, as soon as I woke up, they told me, and when I say tell, I don't mean through mouth. It was like I can describe as now I'm assuming that this is what people talk about as telepathy. You know, this was you just know, and
Yeah.
they've already given you. That's it. They don't. There's no process of you just know. It was like all of a sudden I knew came to the understanding that um, I have a message that I get embarrassed every time, and I really honestly I don't talk about this much. I don't talk about the message, and I know that this is kind of against us, I suppose, what they're telling me to do, but. And I'm not saying that they're horrible, beings. I'm just saying I'm not doing my job, I suppose, if that's the case. But um, I have a message that I'm supposed to, and this is what they told me in printed. I'm supposed to tell the world about the love, and it's not their love. It's not. It's the word the love. Now, this bothers me because I really wish they would. I really wish that they would have clarified it because
Yeah.
it leaves me hanging. Um,
Define the love. Yeah, that's the
it
question
was
I
like
would
a
have been
mother to
asking him.
a child that I felt they were taking care of me. And with the message that I'm supposed to tell the world about the love, I'm assuming it's their love in general. It's like almost that collective, everything you can lump together and throw them in the mix as well. But it seems to be more geared towards just their race or maybe the extraterrestrial race in general. And that's a question mark, though. It bothers me. My God, if that's the biggest, it's not, it's the biggest puzzle almost, except for one other one, but that I have, and it's like, oh my gosh, well, okay, I guess it doesn't matter the love because they're referring. Why would I have to? It's just like why would I have to tell the world? Because they know about love in general, love and light or something. I don't even talk about love and light. I don't like to say love and light, but it sometimes, it
Well, that's
makes sense.
such a new age term.
Right. And I know people can stereotype you after that, but what else can I say about it? And it's like, I don't know. It bothers me that I don't know a little bit more about that particular message. But a lot of people say, well, that's nothing new, Erica. And what are you talking about? That's like ooh, thanks for telling me. I didn't know that. Like, why don't the ET come up with something like original or whatever? I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. This is what I got. I really wish it was something spectacular, but It's not. Sorry. I'm not gonna. I'm not
Do you
gonna.
think that okay? So they gave you the message that you need to tell the world about the love.
Hmm.
Have you had any more in-depth messages that have defined this? Have you had
Well,
any more dreams or waking moments?
no. I mean, not exactly that would define that. Later, what they actually let me walk the ship. Now, when I was in the ship, I was in the room or in a room. I'm sorry that had a tower in the middle, all the way up with some gadgets, whatever. And it wasn't that big. I mean, it really wasn't that big. And so, like maybe a small house or something, the circumference, whatever. And, but yet somehow we were able to leave through a door type thing. And then, oh my God, we were in the biggest part. Like you couldn't even see, I didn't notice the ceiling when I was walking after a while. I mean, I really thought my foot was going to slip through this circular thing off to the side that was sort of like um, not a railing. It was on the floor, walkway kind of thing, and we had to go underneath a couple of things, but then the ceiling was like the sky's the limit almost. I don't even know how big that thing was. So a friend of mine mentioned while I was writing the book that just made it like, well, maybe the smaller ship took you to a bigger ship and docked, and then that's where eventually you know what I mean, like walked, because how could you walk the big ship? And I'm like, well, that's a very good, way to think of it. I again never thought of that. I just knew that I left and walked, and then my God, there's a huge area, and to fact where I was being escorted, and I was able to look at the being's back. I don't know who was beside me. I think it was the female, but the male was in front of me, and I could smell the smell.
and these were the blue beings.
Yeah, I could
Huh?
smell this bizarre. I smelled it when I first got up in the ship, and it was a strange chemical yuck is what I said in that, but it
Mm-hmm.
was more like it was almost so stinky, but you couldn't smell it. I couldn't describe what it was. It was a chemical smell. I didn't, but then I got used to it. So,
Was it like a hospital antiseptic smell?
well, it could be sort of described as, that's not really doing it justice, but yeah, it had um,
It wasn't sterile, or was it?
I don't know. It just was, I don't know. It just had this, like my nose knows. I can
Okay.
smell it in my head still. Like it's a little bit not as
Well,
vi
was it nauseous? Was it nauseating, or was it putrid, or
Um, it was
sweet?
it was almost like, I'll tell you what, it was like one time I actually fainted or whatever you want to call it, and when I was giving plasma, and apparently they use smelling salt, and it was
Oh,
one of those moments,
yeah.
like it was an assault on your but you don't know really what it was because I don't remember the smell of the smelling salt
Kind
either.
of like, well, so yeah, that's kind of like a caustic smelling salts. That's kind of, what is it, ammonia based?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't even know, but yeah, it's it just had that something that told me like, ugh. But and it was
This
distinct and familiar in a weird way, and it didn't, it's like it bothered me, but then it didn't bother me that bad. I mean, to the point where like I was throwing up or anything. But
yeah.
what it was is when the being was in front of me, I realized it was him.
You realized it was
It
him.
was coming from him. Now, I saw a shine to the skin, I guess you could say, and I don't know if it was something that was being used on the skin, or if you want to call it skin. I don't know if it was pheromones. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
don't know anything about what it was, but it was definitely emanating from him
Well, it
specifically.
wasn't perfume
No,
or
if maybe it
cologne.
was their perfume, I don't know what they would think of ours, but
Mm.
Wasn't his cologne? Was it kind of musky?
no. It just
Okay.
was. It was almost. I'm going to say a chemical smell of sorts.
All
That's all
right.
I know for a fact. It had a chemical kind of smell.
Do you want to add anything to this, Tobias? Anything here kind of You can add that maybe, or does it even matter?
Well, I was gonna ask actually, what were the features like the face and the hands, the features of
Yeah, yeah.
this person?
Well, the male had a vest on. It was kind of a loose weave, and I distinctly remember it. It was. I can go into that if you want me to, but I'll go into the features of the being. Um,
Hmm.
well, the blue, the bright, uh, I don't know, cobalt, sort of a light version of a cobalt blue, though.
Mm-hmm.
Um, very buffed, sort of. I like to say buff because it's, kind of had a muscular arms
Mm-hmm.
that sort of kind of got a little bit thinner as, past the elbows, sort of like maybe a human, basically. And the forehead, it had, well, it kind of had, I don't want to say human face because that's really not going to give the right impression. But basically, elongated pupils um, that were kind of clear. If you want to, you could see like the inner workings, sort of like there wasn't really a color. If you want, I could
Albino eyes,
describe.
maybe.
Well, almost just like clear glass or something.
Okay.
But yet you could see the pupil itself was elongated, so
They
there
were like
wasn't any.
cat eye pupils, or
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
okay.
and the forehead was had a prominent bump on the forehead, very distinct bump. Um, the
Mm-hmm.
nose was sort of just, there's no hair, no body hair that I saw, no hair on the head or anything.
Right.
And the nose kind of looked like it wasn't even hardly there. I mean, hate to say, but well, I suppose if you say it almost had a gray, where the pictures of the grays, they almost don't really have a nose.
Right.
I didn't notice any, major. And then there was the teeth were sharp and sort of animal-like, if you want to say.
Mm.
And I don't know. I mean, it definitely,
Sounds like you're describing for all intent and purposes, something along the lines of a reptilian.
yeah, that's what, and I've heard from somebody that's in the community, which I'll just tell you what he said, but that there could be it sounds like a young, which I didn't know this, maybe a young reptilian male
Mm.
that didn't yet get any scales, or again, some people say it could be a hybrid of a
Mm-hmm.
reptilian plus maybe even a human. I don't know. I don't know. But
Well, we know that's been going on a lot.
Yeah,
yeah, so
I think when it comes to identifying a species type, honestly, I believe there's just so many different types that it's probably a good thing not to try to identify it with the terms of, human, just, or reptilian. I think a lot of people's minds go that direction, and to me, it's better not to put it in a box because it limits it, right?
Right.
yeah, I agree with you, Tobias.
Yeah.
And so basically, I'm walking along, and there's this overhanging. I'm going along sort of this. On the right side is this overhang of like a courtyard, is all I can describe, where I can look down, and it drops a lot, and I can see a bunch of, and it splits second time, and I can see all sorts of beings. Different, I mean, it's like almost like there was a market square or something down there, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I swear I saw some what looked human, but before my mind is like arguing against that, like what, this doesn't. And then next thing you know, they're pulling me along like, come on. So we've got a destination. So I just keep going. And all of a sudden I don't know how the door opened, if there was, it's just weird. But then I come to the end of the hall, and I go into this room, and next thing you know, it's like the door's shut, it just is shut.
Mm-hmm.
And I see this child that's sitting, it just looked like the smallest child. My first instinct is, okay, first I'll describe the room. The room looked like an office, like a very small doctor's office, mixed with maybe trying to be like a comfortable home. environment. Like it just
Mm-hmm.
looked phony to me. Like I knew the difference because it wasn't quite right. I knew it wasn't. It was almost like they didn't do a very good job. If they, it wasn't a human that built that. It was there was something wrong in the picture. Right
Right.
from the go about what it looked like. Um, and there was this baby, kind of a skinny baby actually, sitting up on its own, and that caught me off guard. I don't have children, or rather earthly children, and it caught me off guard because I was like, my brain again went, this is wrong. Babies, that size don't sit up. I just knew it was wrong. It was not right. There was something wrong. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I realized the baby was like levitating something.
Hmm.
Something was happening in front of it with some kind of a toy. And it's just like, that's all I remember, like that with that particular. And then I know that I was sat down and I started to bond with the child, like look and notice what the child looked like. And it was just, she looked just like a blue, but she had Caucasian skin like I do. She had this prominent bump, no hair. I knew it was a female. I don't know. That was the sense I got. And I started to, and I don't know how long I was there. Time was irrelevant, I'm sure. And God, I realized I smelled her. I could smell, I could,
Mm.
she was mine. She was mine.
Wow.
And I started to get horribly upset. I mean, I was pissed because, I mean, I was like, I suppose, I don't know what other mothers would, I don't know what a mother instinct is, okay? But I was mad.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I was like, I'm getting her out of here. We're out, protecting. I don't, it was an instinct. And as soon, I was hot-blooded, and all of a sudden, female blue, I knew she was female blue, pulls me out, right out of the room, right then and there. And
Wow.
I am yelling, who's the father? What's going on? I'm just about ready to knock her out. And it sounds like a straight weird, you're going to knock out a reptile. I was that upset. And all of a sudden she touches my forehead, and it was like an instant sedation of calming. I didn't go to sleep. And then all of a sudden I just realized, as an understanding took me, that I've been working with them and I've known about this. This is not the first time, because, this is not the first time that I've been on the ship. I know it just takes a while for my memory to sort of, I always have that lack of memory every time I come up, so they're used to it. And that, I have some kind of equation. I never say, I hate math. Okay, so, but I don't know why I would say equation. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be honest, in my regression, I wish I never did, because it'd be easier for me. Because
You
this
wish you never remembered?
no, I wish I never even heard the word that I said. They
Oh.
gave me an equation. I wish that
Oh,
I didn't have supposedly equation, because it's even more than that message of the love. It gets me more than anything. Like, oh, thanks for telling me barely anything, and now I'm insane about it. What do I do? But I understood that I have an equation that they've given me, or that an understanding, I've been taught something, and it literally is a multi-layered, and I don't know why I see 3 layers, okay? But it's got uh, each layer in itself has sort of like pictures and feelings and symbols, and my God, it's like, it's not just math equation. It's just, my God, so much at once that it's overwhelming. And for some reason, there's 3 layers. And I have somebody it's supposed to be, I said him, so I guess it's supposed to be a male, whether a human. I'm pretty sure it's a male human, because, a male is supposed to help me uncover it, or has the other part of it, or that, it's involved in the equation, and I'm supposed to find that person, and whatever, there's a lot to it, and I'm like, alrighty then. So leaving me hanging again sounds all weird. I mean, not even half the story and for the equation. And so I'm searching, and basically what happens is I go back to, and I'm assuming my friends are with, but I try not to bring them into it because they won't talk to me. I mean, they won't even confront. They won't. I can't get a hold of them. Like when I did mention it and try to ask the person that I'm pretty sure that was with me, she won't talk to me. She won't even. She won't deny it. She won't confirm it. It's like right after everything happened, we were dropped off, and I, in real time, saw the craft lift up, do a dip and swoop, and dart out of sight in a split second. And then I don't remember anything for 25 years. But my sister says she remembers my friends and I coming back the next day and saying that we had some kind of sighting encounter thing, but didn't go into explanations. They left. I went to sleep. Nobody ever talked about it. But in the regression, what the filling in the blanks part said, after they left, I was very upset and I was very sad. I mean, it was like family leaving, and we walked back to the car, and my words are, there's nothing to talk about. That was my words, meaning they must have, it was either too shocking or that's the implant of memory so we wouldn't talk, and we stopped talking right after that. All my friends and I stopped talking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it allowed me to live my life for 25 years until the awakening was supposed to happen, I guess. I mean, if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
So that is really the main experience. And so now I thought, well, I've got to write this, I've got to write this down for me. I mean, I don't want to try to sell books for, reasons, people, and I want my story.
You had an itch that you had to scratch.
Yeah, and I did start talking on radio shows before about it, but I mean, I thought, well, getting it in writing is a great way to keep it somehow, you know what I mean? I don't have any earthly children to pass it on to. So if I wrote it down, it would somehow maybe be in, for people to, if they get anything out of it, they you know what I mean?
Right.
So I was hoping, yeah. And it's been about 6 months, and I don't even talk about that message very much. I try to just live my life, but I still have that passion for everything, to uncover it, and everything that, I still
You've
have.
got questions you want to know. I mean, you're inquisitive.
Yeah, and
I have kind of shared this. Go ahead.
Oh, go on. Sorry.
I'm just, it's just, I've got plenty of questions. And it's just like, there's times I just get tired of it because it's so life draining. Like, well, damn, I feel like I'm stuck in a rut. Now, I have not had the experiences you have, and that's fine. But my therapy, if you want to call it, is, doing these shows. It's kind of a way for me to, write my book, so to speak.
Yeah, I understand, because I actually started doing shows in the beginning because I was looking for answers as well. And look, Dale, just don't knock it. You may have a lot more experiences than you realize, and that's the whole secret to anyone. I've come to this understanding myself that if you've had a UFO sighting ever, you may have a contact experience, even if you don't remember it, because they don't have to let us see them. Their technology is that good. Now, when I say UFO contact that they let us see, that means the true ET, but not, if people see it and they don't have any contact, it just may be human, human-made ships that they're seeing. So, you know what I mean? I try to divide that. So,
let's just say that my experience through life is I have had, I would say probably in my teens is when I started noticing things happening in life, just like introductions to things that make you go,
Yeah.
There was, I think you and I have talked about this, but I had this met a kid on the school grounds who had two sets of eyelids, uh, one kind of like an alligator, but
Yeah.
very human look. And only the years later discovered that where I grew up, it just happened to be a focal point for a lot of underground government uh, companies that were government contractors that really worked on the fringe. But had a buddy I grew up with. His father worked for one of these companies, and only to find out years later just what they're involved in. And it's just, geez, man, the stuff is just comes at you. Then I had another experience where I felt as if I was given an introduction of what it feels like to be stepping into a portal. That's didn't see anything materialized in front of me other than watching my arm. Remember the cartoons Plastic Man?
Yeah.
Okay, the Alex. Yeah, okay. So, and in the movie, what was that movie that we saw here? The Fabulous. What was that called? The Fantastic Four, I think it was, where they. Oh, geez, I can't remember the name of the character, but he was a doctor, and he was very elastic. Well, in this event that happened, it was right there in the hallway of my home. And I had this willy feeling in my stomach like you're riding a roller coaster. And then I don't know why, but my right arm, I brought my right arm up and it started to, like it was being sucked into something. I couldn't describe it, but it only went out so far and then it came back and I was like, what the hell did I just witness? And that was that. And then it's just little instances like this. It's like introductions to things, but I've never taken it. I've never been shown anything more deeper into it. And my life's been full of this kind of stuff. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
why me?
Well, and that's the thing. People sometimes ask, should they get regressed, and what do I think about it? And I'm saying absolutely, as long as you trust the person and sort of. I mean, I would like to get regressed again by someone though in the field that is trained to do this. Yeah, because that could have pulled out a lot more about the equation. But you should have saw the doctor's face when I got done both times. He was extreme. His mouth dropped. He looked shell-shocked. Honestly, I'll be honest. He didn't really. I just knew I couldn't keep asking him to do more. I just knew it would not be a good idea. And I didn't really. I was actually holding a lot back from him from what I saw. In a sense, I was trying to be conscious of all that as well because I was afraid that he was going to think that I was crazy. Because if you're telling someone of that nature as a doctor.
What this is what was Dolores Cannon's mission in life, was to train already trained hypnotists on a deeper level. This is what she did. She trained hypnotists that have already, been well-seasoned hypnotists, but trained them on a much deeper level.
Okay, well,
that's what that is what her mission in life was, and she spent the better part of 40 plus years, doing this, and plenty of patience on taking this technique on a deeper level that got to the ET connection, so to speak. So
yeah, I mean, and it's people like her that I would like to get a very what I had to work with and all that at the time was great because I didn't even make a plan. I just said, is there any way you can help me to find out who was with me? That's exactly the way I worded it. And I said, well, I did have a UFO sighting and I was wondering if you could just find out who was with me because I can't remember. I didn't want to tell him too much because I thought, oh my God, he's not going to do it. Yeah. Like I said, so if you do ever want regression and you do think there's a chance, try to go in there. I would, my advice to people is try to go in there with that kind of an open mind of, you don't want much, don't want to be abducted or don't want too much because then you'll be setting yourself up for disappointment possibly,
Right.
And I clearly got shocked off of it, and it took like a whole week of just listening to it over and over again, like often, and like, oh my God, I couldn't believe what I was saying. I just could, everything was
Oh,
just,
so they recorded this.
I got it recorded
Yeah.
because I was going to play it for my husband,
Right.
because I just wanted him to be there, but I thought, oh, and I think he had to work. So I just recorded it. I didn't think anything of it, oh my God, So
Right.
yeah, I still have it, but it's still the idea that, I mean, it was a cheap, recorded thing. You can't hear what he's saying. He's not saying much.
Right.
And there's a lot of times that I try to splice out the long moments because you can hear me going under a little farther as I get going, and at the end I'm really under. So, I mean, like even more. So, I don't know. It's
Tell
just
us more. Tell us more about this ship. Was this something along this size of like a convention center, like a rock, like a where they play rock concerts, these
yeah,
huge
I mean the
auditoriums.
big one, yeah, when I was walking it was bigger than that though, easy. I mean, I suppose um
Mm-hmm.
an indoor stadium
Mm-hmm.
where they have professional football would probably be like that, although I've never been. I have a sort of a smaller league college football a stadium around here that I can only imagine. Well, it
What
was
was
even
the
bigger than
textures
that.
like? Was it more free flowing structure, refined, kind of almost organic nature, or
Um, it was very bare.
yeah,
That's first and foremost. And there was
simplistic?
very simple, very ridiculously ergonomic, I suppose might be. There really wasn't anything that I didn't. It's funny because I knew there was a few doors, it's like I know, and I must have been there, and I just don't remember actually walking, but I knew what was there was if you went straight. Okay, first, okay, I was in laying on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that basically I don't remember getting up exactly, but I remember when I was up in the small intake room or exam room, as I call it, which was probably that little ship, but because it was round. You could see everything was round. You couldn't see
Mm-hmm.
any lights though, but you knew that there was lights on. I don't know, but you didn't
Mm-hmm.
see the light bulbs, but you saw all this, gadgetry and stuff. But then to my left, for example, if I'm in the middle, to my left, we walked and entered the tiny little, I don't know if it was 5 foot, whatever, a hallway like that. Then you turn to the left. And then if you stood there straight, you would be right at the wall. And then to the right was another where it went out, like longer, which we didn't take that way. We took to the left again. And then we had to walk so many feet or whatever it was. And then there was this like almost like this, what is it, a low hanging area that we walked under, and it got darker under there. So it was like suddenly, like, I don't know why it was like that, but low hanging. And that's where I thought my foot was going to fall through these elongated holes that were off to the right, because I was on the right. Off to the right was like on the floor, huge, long, 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 like, I don't know. They were huge. Like, I just I have my feet are like size 8, maybe
What
size 9.
was it like a grate?
Well, it was kind of like just holes in this, like holes in just the very, very almost a side rail of holes, but only it's all flat. I don't know why they were there, but it didn't match the rest of the floor. So there was a
Hmm.
function to it. I'm assuming, and it was a different color. I almost remember. I almost want to remember in a weird gold kind of, but I don't know if it was gold, but it had that, it was off standish with the rest of the flooring. I knew it stood out. And it just would be a row of like almost like I don't know, 15 foot, like foot marks, but only just make it a nice oval, or not, you know what I mean? And then it would have a little space of stability, and then another one, and it just kept doing it the whole time. Like it was, I don't know what it was for. But I was really concerned. I was really concerned about my foot slipping in it. I don't know. It's weird, the things you remember, but that was one of my major concerns. Now, that's probably the least of my worry, if you know what I mean. And
So this
but
is a walkway that had open, like, it's not structurally well.
it's almost like you have, this is like not doing it justice either, but if you had a carport that was just right in the middle of a long, you know,
Pathway.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't, but it had that, suddenly it was just there and it had this low hanging kind of dark, and then it came out of it after, I don't know, so much. And then that's where I noticed that it was immaculately big after that. I mean, I didn't see a ceiling on it. I didn't look, I don't know if I looked, but it was like, there's no way. I mean, the ceiling was clearly clear up there, I'm sure, and I didn't see it. And it was nothing but the straight path to where, as soon as we got underneath that thing and out of that low area, right off to the left immediately was another like set of doors where you could, and I know, it's like I know what was behind there because I do remote viewing somewhat, and I know it was the rest of the ship. I mean, it was something. And then, but we kept going straight. We didn't turn. And there was a couple of doors, but then at the very end of the hall was the hybrid room. And then there was no way to go around I don't know.
You had to go through it.
Well, you couldn't just follow the path up to the door, say, of the hybrid room, and you couldn't just take a right and fall and keep going around the ship. No, it was like there was no way. You go back the way you came, or you go that way. To the right was that overhang railing thing, and there was no walkway that went to the right at all. It was like,
So did you go through the hybrid area?
yeah, that's where they or the door opened. I don't know how, but I was escorted into the room, and then the door was just like, or the wall was back again, and it was shut, and that's where. But
So you have an opening that literally materializes an opening into the wall.
well,
Did you walk through it or no?
well, that's the thing. I know I didn't walk through any specific, like, I got the feeling, I don't see it opening. I just know that it was like all of a sudden I was in that room, and I think that it like almost opened for me. But again, I do like to be a little skeptical, even of my own memories or anything, because I think it's healthy. I'm wondering if my brain is trying to piece it together, saying, well, when you go in a room, the door opens and then you go in. Or did, as you say, maybe I just, you know what I mean, walk through it with them. I don't know. I don't, if I were to walk through like a wall, for example, and just been in the room, I guess I'm assuming I probably would have been alarmed that I walked through, because it's so foreign to me. But at the time, all I know is it seems that the door just was like an open spot suddenly.
Okay.
It wasn't before, but it was, and then I was just in there, and then I just know that it wasn't open after that. I couldn't just leave.
So you're in the hybrid room. What happens at this point? What do you see? What do you sense? What happens?
That's the hybrid. The baby that I saw. That's
Mhm.
that room. So it was that I was alarmed by the room itself,
Right.
and I was alarmed by the smallness of the child being able to suddenly sit up, and then realizing that, yeah, there was this levitation of a toy or something, and then I got, kind of wondering, and I didn't even realize about the bump on her forehead until after I got close and started to sort of just take some time with her, and that's when I noticed that I got,
This is your child. Wow.
yeah. But I'll tell you, I was extremely upset because, oh no, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what anybody would feel in their situation. All I know is I felt the anger so bad that it felt like you know, I, f- I honestly felt like I could have hurt that female that took me out because I was that man. Now, I think it's safe to say that a 7 foot tall, buffed out female reptilian of any sort probably would have whooped my butt. You know what I mean? But
Hmm.
clearly, they didn't calm me down because they were scared of me. I mean, um, I don't know though. It's weird because, I mean,
Okay, let's move forward a little from this. What? So now, is this if memory recollects? She touched your forehead and it was lights out, and then what? You woke up where?
well, when she touched my head, it was just as more of a sedating,
Mm.
instant sedation. Sedation meaning for me at that time would be super calm.
Uh huh.
and and then I received the understanding telepathically that I had been working with them and that I had the equation and it all came together then. It was
Let's
like,
talk about
okay,
this equation. What is this? A mathematical equation?
well, it's pretty much a layers, 3 layers of, and I say 3 layers, but I don't know why I just see it as 3 layers. Sort of see it in my mind's eye of sorts. And it's not just math. It's a multitude of feelings and symbols and pictures and things that just I wish I knew more. That's the thing.
Well, we I have come to learn that symbols do carry very powerful uh, messages. We know this in crop circles. Geez, even the pagans understand symbology. You know, there's even I've done some research here in the just not so recent past of former satanic priests that have literally say they could walk through a Christian's home with a box and place things in these boxes that have they're just chock full of symbologies that are not really that carry a whole just a frequency of power within them that just they're not aware of. I could tell you, you know, my own personal experience being involved in the church in my younger years, that churches are chock full of symbologies, and they are really they have been misled to believe that they're just it's just oh it's just a cutesy you know picture on the wall, but you know
Yeah.
there are cities and states in these countries that there's a reason why they have symbols, and they put symbols in their state flags, city flags, letterheads, the English with their family crests. All this stuff has meanings. That's not. There's no coincidence. There's nothing made up that isn't well thought and planned out. And the Masonic Order has been very influential in this. So when you get these equations, I'm thinking, well, right there, what's telling me is that there is a plethora of information that can be packed into energy signatures that are packed into symbols.
Yeah, you're right, Dale, because when I break it down and try to really, I mean, in the book I try to really dig as deep as I could, and it was kind of
Hmm.
painful in the sense of like tedious and also, my God, sometimes, it's just and it's like this is the way I describe it. This is the best way for me to actually describe the equation. A lot of
Yeah.
people think, like I said, it's going to be one of those. I don't know. I can't think of any like pi r square. That's something like that. That's all I know about anything because I'm horrible with math. But it's like you take a card table and you take a deck of cards and you throw them on the table like 52 card pickup type thing.
Hmm.
Swirl them around. That's one layer. So you have 3 layers of those. But say in each card, you pick it up, you can see a symbol, or maybe an event, a picture, whatever. And within that, as soon as you're looking at it, you're also feeling the
Right.
emotion, or there's so much on each card like that. And that's kind of how the equation is for me. I don't know how many card slash symbol things are on each layer, but it's just has that kind of feel to it, that kind of vibe, and it's very frustrating. But I am starting to take a journey. I'm documenting my journey. I'm doing it again for me, but I will share it with people if anyone's interested. And um, so basically, I'm documenting, and I have some ideas of somebody or some people or some idea about the male to help me with the equation. I have some direction. I have, you know, I have some things going on, but I don't really want to. I kind of want to just come to my own end with it, or as far as I can. And it might take a year or two. I'm just taking a journey right now and
Yeah.
taking it slow this time so that I can
Trying
do
to
it.
decipher the equation.
Yeah, and I
Well, they
think that
say mathematics is the universal language, so it sounds like you've got an updated or an up. You definitely got a version that has a lot of content.
well, it could have helped me out in school if that was the case, but no, yeah, I was really bad with math. I actually got F's in math, so I'm just gonna say it. I'm that bad, but it's okay because being
Well,
45, I can admit it.
I'm not insinuating that this is a mathematical. This is
Oh,
this. This seems to be something that may have some mathematics in it, but this is based on a. These are based on symbols that you aren't familiar with.
well, there's just so much that I mean, just to go through and decipher. Yeah, it's just there's probably some that I'm not, some that I. It's just I think that this journey may continue for possibly my whole life.
Mm.
I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I know that in 1 or 2 years, I'm probably just going to go ahead and document what I can in book form because there's only, like portions and pieces. And because, I mean, my God, like, I don't want to let it ride. I'm not one to let something ride for so long, but I think that I can really feel that with the information and being a contactee and everything. I just think that my whole life is always going to have where I'm uncovering more and more,
Oh
unless
yeah,
otherwise. I really don't know. But
it's the journey. It's the quest.
yeah,
It's
it's
your
a
life
life.
quest. It's not a curse. Be careful with labels because I'm learning that too. It's we that's I struggle with that too periodically. It's like God, I wish I could pick a reality and stick with one. I keep getting thrown back into this humanistic, earthbound prison. And it's like, come on. I just want to remember and wake up from this dream. I want to get out of the freaking matrix.
Yeah, well, the more you try to get out, the more you're in. Because
Well,
because you
yeah.
discover you're in, and it's a life. I mean, this,
Hmm.
yeah, it's challenging.
Well, all in time. It's a process. Tobias, you got any comments, questions?
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, I really, I may be a little out of character right now when I say this, but I really have to commend you, Erica, for keeping your sense about it all. I mean, a lot of people have, even experiencers with different things like this. It hits them, it sends them for a loop. It sends them for a loop, and it makes things more difficult to piece together. I really, I really like your healthy skepticism. I really like not. I really like the way you want to come to information rather than have information, presented as if, well, could be this, it could be that. Well, maybe you should just come to your own conclusions, and that's the way you sort of approach it. And I think it's really healthy. And I really just I have to commend you for just keeping your wits about you, because most people, whether they're experiencers or they're people who just have heard stories from other people, um, have such a hard time wrapping their heads around these things, such a hard time. And of course, there's so much that obviously you don't understand or haven't come to any solid conclusions about, and there's missing pieces and other puzzle pieces and stuff. But just I think it's a really a healthy approach that you take with it all.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate it. And I try my best to, like I said, do that because I think that it is a good way to, like, a lot of people, and they do have a very scary, negative, completely everything's, bad experience. And I never say, oh, that, they shouldn't feel that way. No, that's the way they feel. That's their experience. Mine was scary at times, yeah. But when I went from a stage of being, for example, an abductee or whatever, to being a contactee, because I feel now I have an understanding, and I'm fortunate enough, I can say that at least what I know of my experience and what I remember, it's very, they are my star family. They really are, and I don't like to be hokey with love and light, but I didn't want them to go. If there's a connection. And so if people do say, oh, all ETs are, bad, or fallen angels or devils or whatever, or they're all, all reptilians are Illuminati and everything. I don't know what my being was. They never said, hey, Erica, I'm a reptilian. They, I don't think that, that's even a term that any advanced being would probably even use. Like how sometimes we just use that because if telepathy obviously is used, which it was, then they're just going to instantly think of the being, and then they don't have to describe probably what it was. Like they can think of
Right.
a reptilian, but they don't have to say reptilian because they just give it to the other person's thought and boom. So you don't have to say reptilian. It's just, okay, this. And then it's like showing them a picture. So in a way, we're describing everything, but and for a while, stereotypes used to bother me about the reptilians or the ETs in general, and they still do.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that, yeah, as humans, we do that because that's our perception. We kind of have to, as hunter-gatherers from the old days, we kind of have to assess the situation, don't we? We have to go, is this a lion? Because if it is, he's going to kill me if I come out, or is this a bird? And, oh, I probably am not going to be killed if I come out of the cave. So we kind of have to use that in our, lives, at least at this point.
Well, it's that animalistic thing that keeps coming back into, am I the hunted or the hunter? Am I the prey? And that fear that we've all been subjected to, and that there just seems to be a controlling elite that are hell-bent on keeping everybody suppressed in a fear, slave mentality. But there are those of us that are breaking free of that and saying, I'm not afraid of you, and you ought to be afraid of me, because by damn, when I get out of this body, get into my true essence, there's going to be hell to pay. And I think that's we're starting to see unfold now, is they're preparing for something, and it's coming up. And why the need to build all these underground bases?
Yes, you're
See?
right. Yes.
Why are they,
That is a great point. I mean, what? Hey, you don't build it and they will come. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
why build it? Okay, what's coming? Because something, right?
Yeah. So it's, oh well, it's been a walk. It definitely has been a walk, and it's not over yet. I think that humanity, we are at a threshold where I think we're at the time, right up to the time, we're leading into a time, I feel, that is at the time of the flood with Noah, when, we may be experiencing something where humanity could be snuffed out and started over again, or it could go another way. And I don't have any answers to this. I just have my intuitions, my thoughts, but again, we got to be careful of thoughts, because so much of this now is becoming apparently clear that, our thoughts could lead us into more of the fear, but what I'm sensing that the message you was giving is that there is a universal love that they're calling the love, and it's an all-encompassing transparency of knowledge that may very well be um, for those of us that have had the connection and are choosing to take the next step in evolution. Again, these are
Yeah.
just my thoughts.
And your intuition should ring strong in this case, I think, because I think people need to trust their intuitions more. And collectively, if we're all feeling a certain way, aren't we actually creating our reality anyways? Because we're actually collectively thinking it in a sense, you know?
To some degree, yeah, but there's still so much that's being controlled.
You know,
Uh,
the one thing when it comes to the love that stood out for me when Erica, when you described that, is really that you were hesitant to spread the message. And
Yes.
I think that is such a healthy, brilliant way of perceiving it, because I don't know, I can't think of a good example, but it's like somebody coming up to you that just happens to be someone who's taken you from your bed or taken you from whatever, and done certain experiments. And I'm not meaning to make it all scary and everything, but obviously it has those components. And then suddenly they give this cryptic message, oh, it's all about the love. Well, if it doesn't make sense, if something doesn't make sense to me, I am not going to go out and scream it from the mountains and post it in the newspapers. And I just think it's a very healthy, again, I have to commend you, because it's a very healthy way. It's a very healthy stance that you take on it. And I commend you again for not, you know, just saying, oh yeah, you know what, they said the love, and I just know it means, oh, it's okay. Well, who
Yeah, well,
knows?
thanks. Thanks, because I just every time I'm like, oh gosh, I really have to. Right before I'm going to say, I'm thinking, I really
Yeah.
almost don't. I almost don't. I don't even really want to say it much. And I don't say it much, but when I feel obligated because it is part of the story or the experience, journey. But my God, it's embarrassing. Oh my God, I'm saying it for the first time. I'm embarrassed to say the message, but I mean,
wait,
what
wait,
kind
wait.
of
Why are
self-care?
you? Where does this embarrassment come in?
Because it just sounds like, okay, it sounds like love and light. And again, I'm not going off on love and lighters, but I'm not a love and lighter. I don't know. I mean, I still believe in love. I still believe in, you know what I mean? But I don't feel that, I don't like stereotypes, but my God, it sounds like it's just the most generic message. Like, oh my gosh, really? I'm supposed to run around. I'm supposed to tell people that, and they're gonna look at me like, alrighty. Why don't you just, yeah, you're crazy.
You know, what's funny about that is yeah, I completely agree. But I think a lot of people at the same time, if you, all you'd have to say is, oh, and the message is the love, and they would run with it. They would be, oh, yes, this and this is that, and it's a wonderful thing. There's nothing harmful. There's nothing bad. It's all good. It's all love and light. And, and not to say that those things don't happen and exist, but I just mean I don't think that would be a healthy way for somebody to run with it, because there's just not enough information there.
Yeah, I agree with you. And in fact, I wonder if I receive the understanding. I like to say it that way because it's not like they talk to me, if you know what I mean, and say any in words.
I
But
understand. Yeah.
um, because right after that is about the love, then it's like taking care of me like a mother to a child.
Mm.
Now, is that part of the message? Because that's not what I can't say that for sure. What is it? Am I supposed to
Or,
include that in there? That
or is
bothers
that,
me as well.
yeah, and not to sound like the big skeptic that I sometimes am, but or is that part of the feeling that made you feel to trust the message, which you don't really understand at this point?
Right. I wonder, is it a nice little, yeah. I don't want to say
Yeah,
lie, but is it a nice little
sure,
screen memory of sorts or something that makes me feel warm and toasty?
exactly. I
Because,
think it's
well,
safe.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's safe
also,
to
I
trust.
I'm sorry. I'm so excited right now.
No, go ahead, please do.
I'm on a old. Dale's like, shut up. No. But
Oh
seriously,
no.
when I didn't mention this because we were kind of skipping around, but when I was in the exam room initially, and after the blue beings got there, they were doing something, and I said, they're fixing me. And of course,
Mhm.
I'm 16 years old. I don't think that I'm broken. I didn't have anything wrong with me, but somehow they were fixing me or something. Now, it does make me curious as well, like, was there an issue, or is it just my understanding that they were fixing me? That's the way I interpret it. And then the mother to a child love kind of thing. But then the message comes in. So, but I know that message is exactly almost in a verbatim of, it's not you, like, again, I can't say verbatim because they didn't say the words, but it is the verbatim thought, if that makes sense, that I gave about tell the world about the love. That's the like a verbatim kind of, you know, directly from them to me kind of thing. And it would be real nice if I could interpret it
It,
and embellish a little, but I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
let me
yeah.
let me throw something else at you here, baby. This might kind of give you an aha moment. With what you have gone through, and you have an understanding of, you're beginning to unravel the mysteries. Do you have a sense that you feel protected?
Ooh, that's a good little ditty to think about.
Or have you gone through life feeling that something deep inside of you knows, or you always knew that you were protected or shielded?
Yeah, I always did. I always did feel protected. In fact, I used to, even do things like walk on, like if my friend and I, for example, would walk the highway. It wasn't like an interstate, but very busy, and I would deliberately make sure she was placed on the inside so that I was more towards the traffic because somehow I just felt it would, I would a little protective or something.
Have you gone through life feeling that
And
you've been.
that was right after my, oh my God, you just made me think. That was
Yeah.
right after my incident. Gosh, you're good, Dale, because I didn't think of it of the time. So,
You ever
yeah,
had that sense that you felt like you were instinctively kept out of harm's way?
yeah, yeah. I mean, to a great degree, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And I kind of feel like there's a certain part of me that would easily, I'll describe it as easily, be able to possibly be a liaison between
Mm.
entities. And I feel that I definitely could handle that. I know I could handle that. Now, obviously, there'd have to be a communication barrier that would be fixed, or it would be completely understood in telepathy form or something. But, and I'm not saying, oh, people listening might be like, oh, so she thinks she just wants to go ahead and be the, you know what? I'm not saying if they want me to, then I could handle it. I don't, because I don't feel malice or any kind of negative hate towards the beings just because they're trying to survive. I think that every being, even what people might term as the bad ETs in any way, they are just trying to survive. I mean, why are we all alive? We're alive to try and survive. So if we're doing things to say monkeys, which is I'm an animal lover, and it infuriates
Hmm.
me. People are saying, "Oh, well, we have to because we have to test this, otherwise other humans are going to die." Yada yada. Okay, I understand that their intentions, but I also understand that the monkeys don't deserve it, and so the whole thing, I can't. I'm like, ugh, it enrages me, but we're trying to survive as well, and
All right. Let me throw this. Let me throw this at you and see if this is what you're resonating to. Do you feel that your original essence is not human, and that you accepted an assignment to be thrown down here into the zoo and to portray yourself as being a human while not really knowing what you are because you've been allowed to have your memory swiped to just exist here on Earth as a human. But from time to time, you are taken back to the ship to be given updates, have your body modified, maybe, so to speak. But you're struggling with that forgetfulness because you've been living in the human life with the memory swipe. Do you feel that your essence, your truest essence, is not human?
Well, I think breaking it in two parts as the human essence of the mind versus the body. And I think that there could be a chance that my soul, my essence, like you say, is definitely between two worlds, and has a rich history. But I think that that's really everyone. I mean, I don't know that it would be. I don't know why it wouldn't be everyone that has at least that kind of an essence that maybe doesn't know. But at the same time, I almost feel like it wouldn't surprise me if everyone in the world has this kind of situation, because there's so many people coming, opening up and realizing it. But I don't know that I have. Okay, lately I've been actually feeling like I feel there's this very strong connection with the beings. So in that way, how could you have a strong connection that strong unless you somehow are, in a way, family, truly family in at least your essence, if not your body.
Well, you admitted a while back here, you said the word, I feel, these are my star family, so that's why I'm piecing this together here.
Yeah, I mean, it's making sense. I do have to watch, you know how it is, though, you guys. You have to watch the way you portray it, because then they'll say, well, she's just a walking alien. I'm definitely not saying that. I know that they have. I'm connected on an essence, a soul, a spiritual level of sorts that mostly we probably all are, but at least a good handful, or the contactees or whatever. And I'm definitely in that group, so I can say that much. It would be nice to know more, though, as time goes on. I'm hoping to, and I actually, for this journey of mine, I've been, channeling. Well, I've been trying to do channel and meditation and things that are going to get my mind prepared. More like I'm open to anything that that I can get to. But I'm not forcing it. That's the thing. I'm open to saying I am preparing my mind, because I think that raises, and I hate to use terminology like this, but raises the vibrations, yada yada, making you more susceptible if they do want to talk to you.
You're looking for more awareness.
Yes, I've had somebody that, okay, this is what I mean. This is, you guys, this is a great, I'll say this. I won't give the full details because it's still part of the journey, but I was sort of at a stagnant spot to where I was wondering how, maybe this is it. Maybe after the book, maybe after I told my story, this is all, the mission.
Is this it? Am I done?
Yeah. Even though I knew that the equation I didn't know, and I didn't know, but I'm like, maybe this is all for me, and I'm okay. Next thing you know, somebody gives me a message, but I didn't open it up. It was in Facebook. I didn't see it for like a week. I was kind of behind on all of them, but I started to come to a conclusion of sorts that I had to maybe. I also got another person to tell me this, and everything started synchronicity. In other words, where I should start journaling, I should start uncovering my, doing things. And I decided to read that message, and it was a direct channel. It was a medium, and she had channeled, and she said she basically didn't even want to tell me for a whole week. She didn't want to even send it because she felt like I would think she was crazy. Well, the message was the same thing that I got, that I started to uncover on my own. It was the same time frame, And it was the same wording that I've actually gotten in a channeling session. I did an automatic writing thing when after like a meditation, and it was the same wording with the same beings or names of it. It was so right on.
Oh,
She
wow.
she couldn't have known it. We hardly ever talked, and she was embarrassed herself, and she's a medium, but she said, well, she just had to she had to tell me, and I didn't know it, and it was incredible synchronicity. There's no way you can't discount that. It was saying that I needed to do what I'm doing. They said I needed to put my stuff down in a book form, as it said, and to do this. I also got uh, a person that's a close friend to tell me to journal, was talking me into doing journaling. So,
Hmm.
which I never thought about doing before. So that person also is connected with this scenario. So nobody could have known. We didn't talk to each other in that way, and it
Right.
was the same time frame. So, I mean, how could that be a mistake? It couldn't be, you
Right.
know. So but I'm writing all my stuff down of whatever might come up. And my God, it's been like a whole week and nothing's happened, you know. So it's not like every day there's going to be something, oh, look at this. No, it's
Right.
just whenever, if it ever happens, and I'll let it go for as long as it seems to go, you know, 1, 2 years. I'm not worried about it. I just want answers, you know.
Well, my goodness, we've been going on now for 2 hours, and I think that's a good point to maybe bring it into a close here, into a roundup. Any final thoughts there, Erica?
No, well,
Comments?
I really appreciate you guys having me on. And I mean, it's a great to debate stuff. People think, oh, if someone's a contactee, they're going to be, closed-minded, like, oh, you're cutting me down. No,
Right.
I welcome that because, hey, I mean, how else are we going to get some answers? We have to have an open debate. And
Right.
debates never, if everyone agrees, it's really not a debate, then is it, you know?
Yeah, that's
Well,
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I've been really playing it very careful and like not to really not to put so much into it to lead you, but it's just to allow certain things to unfold that I'm seeing and sensing just, interviewing you here tonight. And yeah, I've been very reserved, but it's just it's kind of guide you along to allow you to kind of unfold and make some sense of it. Uh, Tobias, any closing remarks, comments, questions?
Well, I would just say thank you for thank you for this. I think that it's part of everybody's sort of experience is just to let things unfold and try to get to answers. It's sort of what life is, and yeah, I think there's some great value in those answers once you arrive at them. So yeah, good on you, Erica. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah, it was my pleasure, you guys. And if I could plug my website, it's just for
Yes,
purposes if
please.
you want a direct link to the book, and I have it on Kindle for, I mean, just a couple dollars, so you know what I mean, an instant download. And but it's ericagetsch.blogspot.com. That's ERICAGOETSCH.blogspot.com.
And I will put all links to Erica below here in the bio section below in this video that people will be listening to here on YouTube. And Erica, I want to thank you very much. I would definitely want to have you back for an update in the future.
Thank you.
And I know you and I will be talking to off, one on one because this has just opened a whole nother gate for me to oh
And that's good.
get
I'm so glad.
acquainted with.
I'm
Yeah.
really glad that we really, really got to just talk, and a lot of the dream I never even thought. So you really helped me out quite a bit.
Well, that's what we're all here to do, is to kind of take our life and living in the human experience and kind of allow it to start unfolding for whatever the next stage is. And, again, it's just balance. With me, it's balance. It's just trying to stay balanced and start getting the questions answered and, preparing for the next stage, whatever that may be. So I want to thank you very much for coming on. You've been a great guest. Want to have you back. And for those of you that have been listening in, please subscribe to this channel. like the videos if you like them, and leave the comments below because everything counts. I do invite the feedback, and just reach up there and subscribe to this channel. And when I get the new videos up, obviously you know how it works. You'll get the notifications. So with that, I'm going to say goodnight and thanks for listening. If you have an interesting story or cutting-edge information and would like to be a guest on Dale After Dark, contact Dale at spiritofmountshasta.com. To hear all the latest shows and updates, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Dale After Dark. Embrace the night.